On June 25th, during the Jubilee of Bishops, something remarkable happened in the heart of the Catholic Church. In the quiet, solemn beauty of St. Peter's Basilica, Pope Leo XIV delivered a speech that may go down as one of the defining moments of his papacy. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't political, and it didn't follow modern trends. But it was powerful, clear, and deeply rooted in the gospel. Every Catholic, whether hopeful, discouraged, or confused, should hear it. Pope Leo XIV didn't come to entertain. He didn't rely on modern slogans or vague optimism. Instead, he offered something far more meaningful: clarity. In a time when so many feel lost or uncertain about the direction of the Church, he reminded everyone, especially the bishops, of what must never be forgotten. He didn't invent anything new, simply spoke the truth that has always been there, calling the Church back to its foundation, Christ. The atmosphere inside the Vatican was heavy with attention and expectation. Hundreds of bishops from around the world gathered, listening in silence. From the very first words, something felt different. This Jubilee wasn't just a celebration, it became a moment of spiritual redirection. Pope Leo XIV spoke not as a manager of church affairs, but as a father and shepherd. He addressed the bishops with both tenderness and truth, and he didn't avoid the hard topics. He began with a deeply humbling reminder: before bishops are shepherds, they are first sheep members of Christ's flock. This wasn't just a poetic statement, it was a call to conversion. It was a spiritual wake-up. Pope Leo reminded the bishops that true leadership in the Church begins with surrender to Christ, not control over others. The holy door, he said, is not a stage for public image or celebration. It is Christ himself. In other words, faith is not a performance. It is a life poured out. This is a major shift in tone. For years, we've heard discussions about church organization, cultural relevance, and new processes. But Leo XIV shifted the focus back to what matters most: the soul, the mystery of God, the grace that transforms. The Pope's message was simple: before the Church reforms structures, it must renew hearts. Throughout the speech, Pope Leo returned to a theme from past pontificates: hope does not disappoint. But this time, the phrase didn't feel like a slogan. It was anchored in something much deeper. This wasn't the kind of hope that depends on policies or popularity. It was the kind of hope born at the foot of the cross, the kind that only comes when everything else has been stripped away. It's not the hope of the world. It's the hope that comes from God alone. He explained that Christian hope is not wishful thinking. It's not about pretending everything is okay. It's not optimism. It's faithfulness and suffering. It grows when we stay close to God, even when we don't see the results. That kind of hope cannot be taught in conferences or written in documents. It's lived out in prayer, in trial, and in obedience. This was not just theology, it was truth that touches the heart. One of the most powerful lines came when the Pope described the bishop as a man who stands firm in the trial, as if seeing the invisible. This was a quiet but striking image. It brings to mind Moses, who led his people not because he had popularity, but because he was close to God. The Pope made it clear: the bishop is not meant to be a public manager, a cultural speaker, or a social activist. He is called to be an intercessor, a man of prayer, a man of mystery, and a guardian of the truth. Pope Leo spoke calmly, but his message carried weight. He was calling bishops away from a worldly style of leadership and back to the spiritual heart of their vocation. There were no attacks, no bitterness, just a firm, fatherly call to holiness. A reminder that a bishop's true authority comes not from popularity or media presence, but from deep union with Christ. He also addressed one of the most sensitive issues in the Church today: ecclesial unity and synodality. Without directly criticizing anyone, he drew a clear boundary. The bishop, he said, is not just a local figure with his own agenda. He is the visible sign of unity with the universal Church and with the Pope. This was an important reminder. In an age where some bishops and regions try to interpret Church teaching in different ways, Pope Leo was clear: diversity in the Church is valuable, but only if it is ordered toward unity, not division. Synodality has been a popular word in recent church conversations, but the Pope carefully reset its meaning. He affirmed that synodality is important, but not as a new system of governance. It is, and has always been, a style of listening and discernment. It's not meant to replace doctrine. It's not meant to turn bishops into moderators between opposing views. The bishop's job, he said, is to lead with truth and pastoral wisdom, not to negotiate compromises. This is a significant change in tone. In recent years, there has been a strong emphasis on dialogue, openness, and process. Pope Leo didn't dismiss these things, but he recentered them. He reminded the Church that dialogue is a means, not an end. The goal is not endless conversation. The goal is unity in Christ and in the teachings of the Catholic faith. This shift back to clarity is refreshing for many faithful Catholics who have felt confused or even abandoned. In a world full of noise, Pope Leo's steady voice felt like a return to solid ground. He spoke not to please, but to lead. Not to attract applause, but to awaken hearts. His final message was perhaps the most important. He said that the bishop must be a man consumed by the fire of the gospel. This is the kind of language that echoes the saints' men and women who lived for truth, not comfort, who prayed, fasted, suffered, and served with everything they had. The Pope's words were not about church programs or public image. They were about holiness, about salvation, about returning to what matters most. For those who love the Catholic tradition, for those who feel that too much of today's church is drifting into ambiguity or confusion, this speech was like a lighthouse in the storm. It wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, but it was deeply, spiritually clear. There is still a long road ahead. Not every problem is solved. Not every voice in the church will agree. But what Pope Leo XIV gave us on June 25th was a new beginning. A shift in tone, a deeper breath, firm, faithful step in the right direction. Will these words become concrete actions? Time will tell. But for now, the direction has been set. The voice of the shepherd has spoken, and for many, it brings back something we've been missing: hope. What do you think about this speech? Do you believe the church is heading toward renewal, or is there still too much resistance to change? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and may God bless you.